You know, sometimes a simple love story can completely change the law. Sounds kind of crazy, right? Well, that's exactly what happened back in the 1960s with a case that went all the way to the Supreme Court and forced everyone to rethink what kidnapping actually means. Okay, so picture this. It's a tale as old as time, right? A young woman, she's in love, and she decides to leave home to be with the man she wants to marry. Pretty straightforward stuff. But then, bam, suddenly that act of love is seen as a major crime. And the man she chose, he gets slapped with a kidnapping charge and sentenced to a year of hard prison time. How does that even happen? So, how on earth did a romance turn into a landmark legal battle? Well, that's what we're going to unpack today. Let's dive into the story of Savitri and Varadarajan, a case that really makes you think. Where exactly is the line between personal choice and a criminal act? All right, let's go back in time. We're in Madras, what we now call Chennai, back in 1960. This is where we meet our two main characters, a young woman named Savitri and her neighbor, a man named Varadarajan. So these two, they lived right next door to each other. Over a few months, just talking from their houses, they got really close. Then one morning, Savitri's sister catches them chatting and asks, "Hey, what's going on?" And Savitri just comes out with it. "I'm in love. I want to marry him." But there was a huge problem. Her father. He was having none of it. He was so against the relationship that he sent her away to a relative's house just to keep them apart. Now, we all kind of know how this goes, right? Trying to keep two people in love apart, well, it usually just makes things more intense. And that's exactly what happened here. This separation didn't end the story, it just kicked off the next, much more dramatic chapter. And this part is so important. The very next day, October 1st, Savitri makes her move. She leaves her relative's house, finds a phone, and calls Varadarajan. She tells him, "Meet me on this road." Now get this, she gets there all by herself, then she gets into his car. They drive off together to get married, but her father? He goes straight to the police and files a kidnapping complaint. And at first, it looked really bad for Varadarajan. The High Court actually sided with the father. Even though Savitri was the one who initiated everything, they convicted Varadarajan of kidnapping. And the sentence? 1 full year of rigorous imprisonment. As far as they were concerned, he was a criminal. But Varadarajan wasn't going down without a fight. He appealed that conviction, and he kept appealing until his case landed right in front of the Supreme Court of India. And that's when things got really interesting, because the top court had to dig into a really tricky, subtle legal question. And this was the million-dollar question, wasn't it? Was what Varadarajan did actually kidnapping? Did he commit a crime by taking her away from her family? Or was he just helping a woman who had already made up her own mind to leave? It's a huge difference. So to figure this out, the Supreme Court really had to get into the weeds. They looked at a few key things. First, can a minor just, up and leave their guardian's protection? Is that even a thing legally? Second, and this is crucial, did Varadarajan actually take or entice her? Because those are the magic words in the law. Which brings us to the big one. What's the actual legal difference between taking someone and just letting them come along for the ride? And this is where the legal genius comes in, because by digging into that question, the court came up with a massive distinction, a really clear line in the sand that would totally change the game for cases like this from then on. Okay, so check this out. It all boils down to taking versus allowing. The court said taking or enticing is an active thing. It means you, the accused, you persuaded them, you talked them into leaving, you basically planted the idea in their head. But allowing to accompany, that's totally different. That's passive. The person had already made up their mind to leave, and you just helped them out. You didn't create the plan, you just facilitated it. So, with that super clear and logical distinction finally established, the Supreme Court was ready to make its call. And this decision, well, it was going to be huge. And the verdict was not guilty. He was acquitted. The court basically said, look, Savitri made her own choice here. She was the one who decided to leave her guardian's home. Varadarajan didn't lure her away. He just answered her call when she asked for help. He didn't take her because she had already left. And this quote from the judgment says it all. The court agreed that, yeah, he drove the car, he helped her get away, but they said that part falls short of an inducement. In other words, giving her a ride isn't the same as convincing her to run away in the first place. And that means it is not taking. That is the legal heart of this entire case.
So, okay, an absolutely fascinating story, right? But you might be wondering, why does a case from 1965 still matter today? Well, it matters a lot. Because the rule that came out of this love story isn't just some dusty old legal text. It's the bedrock of how kidnapping law works in India right now.
Seriously, that whole idea, the difference between actively convincing someone to leave versus just passively helping them after they've already decided, that is still the test courts use today. Savitri and Varadarajan's story set a precedent that's still being used in courtrooms all the time.
And if you need proof, here it is. This is from the brand new criminal code, the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita of 2023. Look at the wording for kidnapping from guardianship. Whoever takes or entices any child. Sound familiar? It should. Those are the exact words the Supreme Court defined all those decades ago. Their meaning is baked right into our modern law. So this incredible case gives us a very clear legal line, right? It's rooted in intent and action. But it leaves us with a much bigger, kind of philosophical question, doesn't it? Where do we as a society draw that line between just helping someone out and actually committing a crime? It's something this old love story still makes us think about, even all these years later.